Guys, we got something special for you today. We are speaking with Carson from the Callous Daoboys. I have to say it slow so I get it right. What's up, Carson?
What's up, man? How are you doing?
I'm doing well, man. I appreciate you taking your time out to hang with us for a couple minutes today, talking about the band and the new album and stuff. And from what I've heard, it's really impressive, dude. It's definitely a good thing. So we'll talk about that in just a few minutes. I'll give you the down low on it. It is out September 2nd. It's called Celebrity Therapist. I'm definitely excited to see this come out. And like I said, we'll get to that in a second. Let's talk about I have to ask you first because this, like I said in the little intro there, I have to say it slow so I get it right.
Sure.
Where did this name come from?
You know, that is like usually everyone's first question. And I'm happy to answer it because I do think it's like one of the best band names ever. And I
Agreed.
can say that because I didn't come up with it. We were in a different band. Me and our guitar player Maddie, we were in like a like pop rock band for 3 or 4 years or so, and it just wasn't going anywhere. And I had a buddy who worked at a restaurant near my parents' house who loved the same music that I loved and everything. And I was like, let's start a band, let's jam and stuff like that. Um, and one day we were texting about it, and he was like, "Wouldn't it be hilarious if we called the band the Callous Daoboys?" And I didn't get it. Like full confession, I'm the lead singer of this band. I suppose I'm the face of this band. I did not get it at first. I had to text Maddie and I was like, Grant wants to call the band the Callous Daoboys. And she was like, that's the funniest fucking thing I've ever heard. And I was like, well, what does it mean? She's like, switch the letters. And I was like, oh, okay. All right, cool. Um, so I don't know how he came up with it. He also came up with the spelling. And we just stuck with that. And he and I practiced together once, and then he moved to Nashville and I haven't seen him
Oh Jesus!
since that one time we practiced. So he came up
Wow.
with the band name, and we've talked a little bit since, like on Facebook and stuff. Um, but yeah, I mean, it was just like I don't know how he came up with it, but he did, and it's the best band name ever.
I dig it
I'm
for
very
sure.
happy that we have that as our band name and not something forgettable.
Hell yeah, man! You guys, I mean, you guys are doing big things, dude. You're from Atlanta.
Hmm.
How did you guys actually come together? How did the band come together?
Well, like I said, Maddie and I knew each other since high school. Like I think we were both juniors, and we just both loved all the same music and stuff like that. She played drums. She didn't really play guitar. Um, but she had a guitar, and I was like, I'll fucking teach you how to play guitar, dude. It's easy.
Right.
So we played guitar in that pop rock band together. Um, we were the two guitar players in that band for, I guess, up until 2017, I guess. And Daoboys had already started by then. Um, I don't know. In that band, we had played around with doing like having me scream and play guitar at the same time and stuff like that. And we had played around with some heavier stuff.
Hmm.
And I was just listening to a lot of Every Time I Die, a lot of Dillinger Escape Plan, um, a lot of like even like Ghost and stuff like that. Like I was
Sure.
listening to just a lot of heavy stuff that we weren't doing in that band. And I was like, I think we should give this a shot because I think I get it. I think I get how to write stuff like this, and I think we'd be good at it.
Hmm.
And within like one practice, we were like, oh, this is the band we need to be working on. We wrote like 3 songs in one practice, um, and recorded a demo, like a demo with electronic drums, I think that week. Um, and then we booked our first show, and just, I mean, we just kept doing it until we found what we were hearing in our heads, which took us a little longer, admittedly. We had a drummer who wasn't really into the kind of stuff we wanted to do, so it took a couple lineup changes to get to where we are. But
Hmm.
ultimately, it was just a drive to wanting to figure this music out. I'd already liked music. I had already liked music like this for a very long time in my life, but
Sure.
I always was just like, no, like I don't think I'm able to do that. Like I think that's too hard, or I don't have the chops for that. And then we just went and did it, and it worked. That's that's really the simplest way of putting it.
So the rest of the band, it's Matty Caffrey on guitar.
Hmm.
Dan uh,
His last
Hoodman?
name's hard to say.
Hoodman?
Hodgson.
Hodgson. I was close,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, you
Uh,
got it.
on the other guitar, and then there's my favorite last name of the band. No offense, Jack Buckaloo on the bass. What a
That's right.
great
Yep.
last name. That's awesome.
Oh yeah, it's a bassist last name for sure.
100%, absolutely. Sam Williamson on the drums and Amber Crispin on violin. What's the is that like that's a different addition to the band is a violin.
Definitely. I mean, I guess from the perspective of just like how a normal band is arranged, I guess
Mhm.
it's different. Um I'm so used to it now. She's been in the band since it started, so um having additional strings. I mean, it's almost no different than having a guitar to us now.
Sure.
Um and I remember like early on, I think maybe she didn't have an electric violin yet, so we were like miking her acoustic violin for some shows, and I remember someone was just like, "You can drop the violin gimmick, like your songs are good enough." And I was like, "No, we're not gonna do that. Like, fuck you."
No, I think
uh,
that puts it, but it
yeah,
puts a different edge on it. You know what I mean?
definitely. I think what it adds to our sound, especially on the new record, is this sort of layer of rawness. It
Sure.
sounds like a band playing together, rather than like than you know stuff that's been arranged in on a computer.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I mean, she brings so much to the band as far as chaos and melodicism goes that it's like I don't think we could write an album without her. I just don't think it'd be the same at all.
So speaking about albums, your first release was in 2019 with Die on Mars. Tell us a little bit about that album.
So it's our first full length. We had done 2 EPs before that,
Mhm.
and both of those were with our first drummer, and I don't think she really knew where we were coming from with how the music was written. Um, so and no shade on her. I just don't think it was her thing.
Sure.
Um, and so we switched. Dion Mars got written at like the tail end of 2017, and then like the beginning of 2018. I remember I wrote it really fast,
Mhm.
because I was just like, I just want the most chaotic, ridiculous thing we can record. I feel like we had something to prove, um, because there were a bunch of people around us telling us that like we weren't hardcore and we weren't metalcore and all this stuff, and that we were like a gimmick and stuff like that. So I was like, I was a little peeved by that, because I was like, all right, well, you can say that, but we're doing well, and like we're turning heads in this small scene that we're in.
Sure.
Um, but I remember when we wrote that, I was just like, I just want it to be the most chaotic, like noisy, hard to play bullshit that anyone's ever heard. Um, and I mean, we self-funded that entire record. We had no label behind us. I sold my record collection twice for that record. I had a record collection that I sold to pay for the first half. I built the
Mhm.
record collection back up, sold it again to pay for the second half. Um, it got to the point where we were like, okay, how much longer do we need this guitar pedal? Like, do we need it for this section of this song? Okay, cool. We'll use it for this section of this song, and then we'll sell it to pay off the next part of the record. Like
Right.
it got rough for a second there.
Sure.
But we all knew it was going to be worth it. And it was. I mean, like that album did so much for us just immediately. Like upon release, like there were so many people that we were getting organic growth,
Yeah.
that a band that a signed band would get as an unsigned band that was doing
Mhm.
this entirely ourselves. I mean, we were funding the music videos ourselves. We were doing everything. We had no like financial backing whatsoever other than ourselves.
Right.
Our parents didn't pay for anything or nothing. We don't have rich parents or nothing. Some of us do, but they didn't pay anything. Um, and it worked out for us. I I love it. It definitely. I wrote it when I was 21, so it's definitely a record written by a 21-year-old. If that makes sense, I'm 25 now, so it's a little weird to listen back to it. I'm like, man, like there's stuff on it that I did back then that I would not do now. But I mean, I love it. It's awesome. I'm very proud of it. I'm very proud of where it got us.
Do you still play some of those songs live too, or?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that we're going to be playing a couple of those songs probably for the rest of our career. Which is fine. I don't care. At a certain point it's like playing a cover. Everyone knows it and, everyone loves it. Um and I would love to get to a point where people just want us to play the new stuff, but I think every band wants that and every band does not get that. I think everyone's always going to be asking you to play your old stuff.
Yeah, there's always staples in your set that you almost have to play.
Oh,
It's
absolutely.
like your free bird, you definitely have to play that.
Oh man.
So
Luckily our free bird isn't 11 minutes or whatever, but
yeah, right.
it's about 2.5. But yeah.
There you go. Let's talk about your band influences. Now, this we were talking about this a little bit before we started rolling the interview, but I always try to pick out like when I first listen to the tracks of whoever I'm talking to, I try to figure out like who has like what influences the band. And I'm gonna ask you because I picked out so many so fast.
Okay, go for it.
It's so
This is my favorite variety of conversation, by the
Let's
way.
talk about band influences. I mean,
Yeah.
your music has so much dynamic to it that like when the first impression I got, and if I'm way off, tell me. If I'm I don't mean to offend you if it offends you, but the first thing I got was like Mudvayne.
Hell yes, dude.
I'm like
I love that band. Yeah.
I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, but then I'm like, well, I mean, it's got that sound to it, but not their sound. You know what I mean? It's like I
Right,
said, you guys
sure.
have a very dynamic sound. So what other influences has the band had? Because I came up with quite a few.
It's funny that you mentioned Mudvayne, and I think I know why you mentioned Mudvayne. We used the same bass that Ryan Martini uses
Mhm.
on Celebrity Therapist. We used a Warwick Thumb, um, and that was like a very conscious decision. Dan brought that to the studio, and we were like, we should just do all the bass parts on this. It sounds incredible. It's like one of the most
Yeah,
ridiculous instruments I've ever held in my life. And Jackie, our bassist, just immediately was like, "This is the bass that I use now. I don't use any other bass."
nice.
Um, I mean, so my dad is like a pretty mild mannered like sales guy,
Mhm.
but he like loves new metal. He had LD50 by Mudvayne on CD. I think he also had $3 Bill and Significant Other by Limp Bizkit. I want to say he had Chocolate Starfish, but he might not have picked that one up.
Mhm.
But he just like loved new metal. He still does. He like still loves the bounce that it has, and
Sure.
we had Corn CDs around the house, and my mom hated it, but like it was like that was the music that me and my dad would play when it was just like, okay, we can chill out, and and
Mhm.
so
Right.
I've been listening to Limp Bizkit since I was like 4 or 5 years old, like
Mhm.
maybe even younger. Um, and I think that always kind of influenced what I'm doing. I love riffs that you can bob your head to. Um, there's not a lot of those in our music yet, I don't think. And obviously, you can pull the classic like, Dillinger Escape Plan or Every Time I Die or Botch. You name all these bands that we sound like, but
Sure.
I mean, in reality, you know, I've listened to enough of that stuff. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
I listened to that, when we were first starting the band, and occasionally I'll throw it on here and there, but like more of what I'm listening to now is, I've been doing a lot of Nine Inch Nails, a lot of Deftones. Particularly while we were making this record, I was on a huge Deftones kick.
That was another one I picked out. Yeah.
Cool, awesome. No,
Yeah.
see, it's funny because like when I first sent I sent one of my oldest friends, Justin, the record while we were still making it, and he was like, "This is like a Deftones record," and I was like, "Thank you." Like that is
Right.
what I'm
Right. Yeah.
hoping for. And the other band that I could not put down any of their records while we were making this one, was Meshuggah. I just fell in love with that band while we were making this record. Like they were always a band I had admired previous to this, but during this record I was like, oh, Meshuggah's like favorite band material to me now. So I hope that long-winded answer is good enough for you.
No, dude. Listen, I'm in the business of long-winded answers. That's what I need.
Hell yeah.
Now, what originally got you into music? Like, what gave you the push to become a guitar player and a singer and like all that you do?
You know, I'd like to think it's because I love music, which I do love music, but I think it was like, what is the fastest way I can get attention from everybody around me? And I started playing guitar when I was like 9, I think. Because I was just like this dorky kid who, I mean, my dad like showed me like stand-up comedy that was like not funny. Like I don't even think I like understood the stand-up comedy my dad was showing me at that
Right.
age. But I was like, the two ways that I could like make people think I'm impressive is by playing music or doing stand-up comedy. And I don't think I'm funny enough to do stand-up comedy, so I'm just gonna pick up a guitar. And I don't know, it was just like I was a very small kid. I wasn't super athletic. But I was like, I think I can do this. And I don't know. I remember like I've been writing lyrics since I was like 11 years old. Um, I think it just always felt like I could do it, and I've just kept at it. Um, our drummer said it best while we were on our last tour. He was like, you were always going to do it, and that's what I like about you. And like whether that means like I'm good at what I do, that's beside the point, but like he's right, I was always going to do it. So I think just it's sort of been this delusion that I've been chasing for years and years and years.
Hey, you're achieving it now. That's a good thing.
I hope so, brother.
So let's talk about the new album, Celebrity Therapists. It comes out September 2nd. Shout out to MNRK Heavy and Modern Static Records. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about this album. You have 8 tracks on it.
Yeah. It's it's 8 songs. It's longer than Die on Mars, despite being only 8 songs. It's got some longer cuts on it. I would say I've said this before, but I think it's even more relevant to me as we get closer to the releases. This is kind of always the record that I've envisioned us making one day. You can't really put it into a box. You can't say like this is our blank. Like if I were to compare it to another band's like second record or something, I can't think of anything to compare it to. In a lot of ways, it feels like our first record. It's our first on a label. It's the first one that we don't own entirely, which is a very weird feeling. And it's the first where we've been in the record label machine. And Monarch and Modern Static have been amazing to us. They've treated us so well throughout this whole process. It's very much a rebirth. And I think we are now releasing something with a bunch of eyes on us. And I think that kind of the mission statement of us not making Die on Mars Part 2 is what I wanted to go with. When I started writing this record, we weren't signed. When I started writing this record, we hadn't really fully experienced, a real fan base yet.
Mhm.
And when we wrote it, it was during the pandemic and we couldn't tour and all this stuff. So coming back to touring and knowing that we had this behemoth of a record ready to go, I was like, oh, this is like it's like we're releasing our first record again. And I'm sure every band feels that way
Mhm.
about, certain points in their career when things kind of shift and everything. But we've got all these eyes on us now. And I think people are either gonna love the record because it's so different, or people are gonna hate the record because it's not as heavy, maybe. I don't know. But I have never looked forward to a day like I am looking forward to the release day of this record. Even when it comes to like the day we released Die on Mars or the first day back after the pandemic, like it doesn't matter. Like I have never looked forward to the day where people are going to react to this record. Then I mean, it's just I can't wait. I seriously can't wait.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome, dude. And you said it's not as heavy. I don't know, man. You guys bring the heavy violent astrology. But then I listened to like the Callous Daoboys track, the title track, and it's like
Oh yeah.
slows down a little bit, and then field sobriety practice comes back, and it just throws you back into the blender again. So you guys did
I,
well, man.
I I think it's definitely still heavy, but there are elements that we're doing on it that we've never done before. Particularly with softer stuff. I mean, the closing track, like my mom likes the closing track, and my mom doesn't fuck with our music like at all. Like my mom does not like
Right, right.
this type of music at all, and she loves that song. So, um, music for moms going forward, just trying to maintain, how many moms we can keep the attention of, going forward with the next record. So
It's moms, dad, brothers. So you got a little something for everybody in there,
I,
which
I
is
I'd like
awesome.
to think so. I'd like to
Yeah,
think
man.
so. Yeah.
So let's talk about the writing process a little bit. Like, how do you guys go from crazy idea to finished track? How's that work? How do you guys rate your songs?
Um, I I do a lot of it. Just in Logic. Like or whatever DAW I'm using at the time. It usually goes for me hearing something in my head, and then just trying to recreate that. I can't play the drums at all,
Mhm.
so I will usually program them. And then what happened with this one is I gave it to Sam, and I was just like, this is a skeleton. Um, do whatever you want drum wise. And he went absolutely batshit crazy with it. I still don't know how he figured some of that shit out. Um, I don't know. A lot of it is just hearing something in my head and then knowing where it goes immediately after, and just doing it solely based on intuition.
Mhm.
I feel like the rubric for writing hardcore or metal songs has been laid out for so long that when I sit down to do something and I don't hear that rubric in my head, I'm like, okay, well, clearly I'm being called to do something different here.
Sure.
And, let's explore that. And with, writing as one person, which, that's not to say the rest of the band doesn't help, but, I can't write the bass parts that Jack writes at all. But when I'm writing by myself, I can try a bunch of different things, and just through trial and error and several demos, um, things get done. I think that the shortest song, like the song that came together the quickest, was Field Sobriety. I think I wrote that in a day.
Mhm.
Um, the one that took the longest was I want to say it was Violent Astrology. That one went through like, gosh, probably like 15 or 16 demos before we landed on the one that we liked. And even then, it was like it was like, well, hang on, let's go back to what demo 3 had and throw it into demo 15 and see if that works. It's a lot of trial and error, and it's a lot of like, let's make sure we don't repeat ourselves. Let's make sure that this isn't someone else's song. Because I feel like that happens a lot in the songwriting process, as you hear something and you're like, ah, shit, this is a Converge song.
Sure.
I know it's happened to us, but yeah, I mean, so a lot of it's me running through trial and error, and then the rest of the band sort of will be like for example, there was a like 11-minute song on this record for a while. And maybe it'll come to light one day, but it had like multiple movements, and at one point it sounded like a Creed song, and then at one point it sounded like a Weezer song, and then it was like back into being heavy and back into sounding like the Mars Volta. And like we had a night where all of us listened to demos on Zoom, and we listened to that one, and after like 11 minutes of just silence and everyone listening individually, I got back on and I was like, so what do you guys think? And it was just quiet for a second, and I think it was Maddie who was like, Carson, we can't do that. Like, you gotta rein it in. Like, so I do lose my mind from time to time, and I do go a little crazy with it, but I have a bunch of other people to reel me back in.
Sometimes out of crazy comes genius, though. Just think about that.
I hope so. Maybe one day I'll get my 11-minute song out there.
I'm sure you will too. So now, is there any plans of touring in support of the album, or?
Absolutely, yeah. So we're gonna be on tour when the record comes out. We're gonna be out with Rolo Tomasi and Crypto Dira doing the East Coast. And I mean, the plan is just to be on the road like as much as possible next year. I would love to do a headlining tour for it. We'll see what it does. I think that a lot of bands that I've seen, when they have their like big not commercial, but you know what I mean, like their big label debut come out, they just do like a full year of support tours, and then they get to do their headliner, and they're twice as big when they come back to do their headliner. So that's kind of what I hope for us. We just did 2 support tours back to back. And the one we did with Avatar was just so awesome. Just even the people that did not like us, I was like, this is so cool that we're getting to play to people who would never listen to us otherwise. Or even just like the shock for 2 or 3 songs of our set of just being like, what the fuck am I watching? Who is this band? And then like after 3 songs, they're like, okay, well, I guess I'm stuck watching this, so I might as well enjoy it. That is the beauty of support tours. And we probably can't do them forever, but I'm very excited for what the future holds as far as support tours go. There's some stuff I can't announce yet, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
Just in the back of your head, just remember Albany, New York, man.
Oh, absolutely. I'll get to Albany. We'll get to Albany. Yeah.
Would love to see you guys here for sure. So listen, dude, I told you I wasn't going to take up a lot of your time, and I did. So I apologize for lying to you. Is there anything else you want to tell the folks before we wrap up?
No, just Celebrity Therapist, September 2nd. We're on tour with Rolo Tomasi from September 1st to September 15th. I think the closest we come to you is Syracuse. Okay. So yeah, check that out. It's all over our socials. Just follow us or me, and it'll be on there.
So folks, make sure you guys grab the newest release from the Callous Daoboys. Looks like I said it fast that time.
There you go. There you go.
Celebrity Therapist out September 2nd. No, it's MNRK Heavy.
MNRK Heavy. MNRK Heavy. Yeah.
Okay. So it's out on MNRK Heavy and Modern Static Records. You guys can check them out on their socials, Facebook, Insta, and Twitter is at. I got screwed up again. At the Callous Daoboys. I had to slow down a little bit. And MNRKheavy.com. You can also check out MNRK Heavy on Facebook, Insta, and Twitter at MNRK Heavy. That's MNRK Heavy. Yes, brother, listen, man, I appreciate you taking your time. And
hey, man,
look forward to this album coming out. I look forward to hopefully seeing you guys live And all the best to you, man. I wish you the best of luck on the album, the rest of the band as well, of course.
Thank you so much, man. Thank you so much.
Man, we'll talk soon. Come back on sometime.
Yes, sir. I'd love to be back on.
All right, brother, I appreciate you.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, Carson.